Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the New Earth Leadership Summit, inspiring spiritual entrepreneurs like you to step into their personal power so that you can become the leaders of New Earth. And I'm so excited because with me today, I have Cassandra Wilder, who is a naturopathic doctor and the leading expert bridging the world of hormone health with traditional women's wisdom. She also hosts the podcast Cyclical, and she helps women step into their feminine leadership with her Women's Circle Creatrix training. Welcome, Cassandra. I'm so excited to have you on the show with us.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
Yay. And so I want to ask you about your journey. I love knowing people's story. Like, how did you end up guiding, Creatrix training, women's circles? How did you do that and get into the line of naturopathic medicine that you are in now? How did that all happen?
Such a good question. And yeah, people are often confused because they seem really separate. One seems very spiritual and flowy. The other seems more science-based. And so sometimes it's hard to see how they connect, but the story really begins in my adolescence when I got my first cycle. It was not an empowering experience for me. I was really scared. I didn't understand what was happening. And as I progressed through my teen years, my symptoms just kept getting worse. And so by the time I was 18, I was kind of fed up and sought out medical help to address why my cycles were so irregular and also why they were so painful. And I built up this moment to be like, this was going to be the moment that someone really sees me, someone really helps me. And my appointment, of course, was like 3 minutes long. And I left with a script for birth control. So that was it. And I'm so grateful that even at that young age, I was like, wait, that's not right. That was not right. Mm-hmm. And so I did my undergrad in health and nutrition, knowing that I wanted to go into something medical, but that was so food guide pyramid based. So again, opposite really of what I believe now and what the body is capable of. So by the time I'd finished all that, I was just feeling a little like I was having an early midlife crisis. And so a very early midlife crisis, feeling like I put in all this effort to help my body. I'm trying to study and understand how our bodies work as women, and I'm getting nowhere. In fact, I'm just feeling more and more deflated and like, oh, if you get ill, you're just ill forever. That's basically the medical model. So I ended up leaving to go and travel the world for about a year. So I spent a lot of time in Central America, and that's where I went to my first women's circle ever in Guatemala. And I had no idea what to expect. I was very resistant. I knew I had a lot of healing that I needed to do, but I felt very guarded. And that moment just changed my life forever, to be welcomed into a safe place with other women, to see women share authentically and to be vulnerable, to not just say, I'm good, when someone asks how you're really doing. And it cracked me open. And it made me realize that there was so much more to this life than these accomplishments that we all think will give us worth and purpose. There was really that deep inner world that I'd never touched before. And so I went to every circle I could get my hands on, of course. And within about 6 months, I was in Thailand and I had the opportunity to lead my first circle. And so this really began to brew that side of what I was so passionate about, to now get to be the woman holding the space for others and helping other women do what I had done when I needed that cracking open experience. When I came back to the States, I began leading retreats, and that was when I stumbled upon naturopathy and knew that I'd found my place in the world, where it was still medical in a sense, and we could still help people, but it was also not dogmatic, and it wasn't so limiting, and instead really viewed people as whole beings. We recognized the mental and the spiritual aspects of healing. And that just was like a perfect bridging moment for me to see it's not separate. That inner healing and that healing of our emotions, of our hormones, of our cycles, they're one and the same. So yeah, when I graduated, I really took it upon myself to be that bridge and to show women what's really possible when you honor both your cyclical nature and again, that inner world, while also taking those practical tools to heal your hormones and balance your thyroid and restore your metabolism and do things that Western medicine might say is impossible.
Wow. I mean, this is incredible. And I have to say, your own experience about, your coming into womanhood and meeting your cycle really for the first time. And that's an interesting thought now I'm having. I'm like, wow, yeah, we meet ourselves at this point, and your story is so resonant to me. I had a very similar experience. My experience was, I'm in a lot of pain. It hurts a lot. I'm like suspected of having endometriosis, given a script, and that's the end.
So sad.
Right.
Yeah.
It is so sad. And of course it left so many unanswered questions that, it creates this dynamic between us, doesn't it? Our inner self and our outer self, that we just we get over time. I think a lot of women can relate to this, getting frustrated with themselves because their body's not doing what we think it should do, but we also don't have any awareness or answers. And I'm just so grateful for women like you who took the journey to go, that's not enough for me. I need answers, and I need them now because something's wrong. And I just sense that I'm not getting the full picture. And because you did that work and you went out there and you really investigated and got to understand what's going on and passing that knowledge forward, I really appreciate you stepping into that space and helping women like me understand their bodies better and start to heal our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think we're all waking up to it. We're all kind of getting sick and tired of the surface answers, like you just said as well. And it's a powerful time to be a woman. We're all claiming our worth, and we're also standing up for what's not working anymore, which is a lot of things in our culture, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's just, you had talked about inner healing and hormone healing being one and the same. And that was such a powerful statement for me when you said it, because instantly lights went on, and I'm like, it is like the frustration that I felt towards myself, until I started working on my own hormone journey and really started to understand, like, how does Therese work? I was, there was that lack of self-love that we definitely need to heal. We absolutely have to have that. But when you're in that space of frustration and it's like a non-communication happening within yourself, it makes so much sense how you can't fully step into inner healing until you address this physical aspect, which is, I listened to your podcast, Cyclical, and I was listening to the one on libido because I was like, oh yes, let's talk about this. And it's like you had said, it's kind of like opening a can of worms when you start really investigating a topic like libido, because there is no cut and dry, one size fits all answer. There are so many elements, right, to ourselves. So I want to just hand that over to you. So let's talk about, because we're going to talk about how this connects to leadership. But first, let's talk about some of the major issues that women specifically face when it comes to self-awareness and their health. So let's just open that up a little bit. When you see women, and I know you see a lot of women, and that's what you specialize in, what is some bigger patterns that you're like, a lot of us in the collective hold this? What are some things you see?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? I'm just kidding.
Right.
It's a lot. There are a lot of core patterns for sure. There's the lack of awareness that I think is usually the deepest underlying thing. We're really bred to be at war with our body, to see being a woman as such a hindrance, to see menstruation as so dirty and so annoying and this thing you have to deal with. At least that's how I felt when I got my period. I was like, what? I don't want this thing. Just so sad to say now. There's really a lack of the body literacy, and that simply means learning how to read and listen to your body, where we can then approach symptoms with that awareness of, I wonder why this is happening, instead of, great, my body's falling apart again, as usual. It's a total different way to understand your body, because we actually care to listen in and interpret what it means. And unfortunately, most of us don't have that sense of body literacy unless we put in a lot of that effort to learn it, because nobody talks about this when we're in that young maiden, early menstruating age. We're essentially handed a pad and said, best of luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have a lot of hope for the generation to come, because so many of us, within the current generation who are becoming mothers who have been digging for answers. We're going to be sharing those with our daughters. And so that's going to, it's going to shift. I know that, I feel that deep in my heart. But what you're saying about body literacy, man, that is so true. It is. I would say that not until my late 30s did I even start getting signals from the outside world that, hey, there might be something you could look at around that. This is maybe not normal what you're going through. And I was just, it was kind of shocking. And then, of course, the next feeling that happened for me as I started to dig in was natural anger.
Yes, so true. So
right.
True.
So how are you helping women move through that? Because anger can be empowering, but it also can put you back in victimhood.
Oh, totally. Yeah. The anger part, I think, is a really big thing, because we're often quick to want to point a finger at someone like, why didn't my mom teach me any of this? How could my mom have done this to me? Or how could my doctors, how could my schooling, how could have these people just left me in the dark like this? And that's a valid emotion, and it's okay to sit with that for a time, but eventually we do have to, like you said, rise from that and realize everyone did the best that they could with the knowledge they had. And with our mothers especially, I'm sure they got an even more disempowering experience with their first cycle, where maybe they literally had to hide it for years, or they were sinful or something if they shared they were now bleeding. So we have to realize, like you said, we have to take the accountability for our experiences and just strive to do better, like with this next generation, or even in just the way we talk about our bodies. Maybe your friends will be shocked at first, but as you start to use those more body literate terms, like, I'm feeling like something's going on with my thyroid and I'm going to investigate it, but I know I can support it and heal it. That's wildly different to, I have a disease and I have to be on medication the rest of my life. How do we want to speak about our experiences?
That is so true. I mean, you bring up the power of words, and how we can empower or disempower ourselves just through how we communicate what we're experiencing. And it's so interesting because it's really programmed in, isn't it? It's really just, we're almost, there's sometimes an association that this makes me special. And when we are not sure what we're holding, when we don't know our own magic and what we're holding, I can see how attaching to something, to anything that makes us feel like we're set apart in some way is, really tempting to do.
It is, but does not serve us in the long term.
Ultimately disempowering. So this is actually a really good lead into the next question. So how is having, the answers, or at least a beginning understanding, this body literacy, this understanding that this is an experience you're having, it's not your identity. How does that lead into really opening up your sense of personal power and self-leadership?
Well, I think simply, maybe bluntly put, you can't live in victimhood in one area of your life and be a leader in another area.
Whoa. Okay. I'm like taking that note. Yeah. Can we say that again? Because I think that's like, you just handed everybody a key right there.
You can't be a victim in one area and then pretend to be a leader in another area. It's all or nothing. And again, I'm saying that with love. I know that may feel blunt, but if we are choosing to attach to, say, our diagnoses, or we're choosing to attach that our life is always a certain way or it never goes a certain way, how do we expect to then be a leader, which is really to exude what we believe in and guide others to do the same? That doesn't match.
Yeah. And, for those who are hearing this, that might find that statement triggering, we're holding you with so much love, because we actually see you as capable of overcoming that pattern and really standing into your full power. And so that's the whole intention of this summit, is really to help you see, like, let's look for blind spots, right? So leaders do that, right? They are willing to ask, for the to have self-assessment, but also to ask for, what am I not seeing?
Yes. Yes.
So
And that's what makes a good leader, to continue to look for the blind spots.
yes, so the leaning into, maybe I
Yes.
don't have all the pieces yet.
Yeah. The
And
fun
that's
stuff.
yeah. And I think that's okay, right? I mean, it's okay to be able to stand in your authority and know there's still more
Yes.
to grow.
Always. Always.
So this is such a great statement that you can't be a victim in one area of your life and be a leader in another, that it really is all connected because why? So let's ask the question, why not? Why can't I have that? Why can't I be suffering from hypothyroidism over here and have it take over my life, but also be a kick-ass boss or whatever lead I want to take?
Right. I think the distinction is you can have, say, a disease or a disorder, but not identify with it and make it your entire personality, right? You can see it and know it is there and not make it who you are at the end of the day. So I think it's a really nuanced little detail of how do you choose to take your experiences into your everyday life? Are you truly choosing to make this part of who you are? Or is it more of something like an experience that you're choosing to rise and heal from that's supporting you along your journey?
So I guess the question that's coming up is, would you say that being out of balance like that, where you're identifying so much with what you're going through that you're starting to say, this is me, and then trying to also stand in this position of authenticity, is that an integrity issue? Is that what we're looking at?
It could be seen that way, for sure. And to me, it's more of just an inner disharmony of, kind of struggling to know where your homeostasis is.
So I know I'm about to ask the can of worms question, because people are going to ask, they're like, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying here is first we have to, have this sense of I'm not a victim to this. This is actually something within the realm of my power and control. And I want to stand more in my leadership. That's more important to me than having this thing that makes me feel like I can get special attention, or I can get, more comfort or more love because I'm, going through this issue. So how do we start creating that sense of harmony? There's the can of worms. How do we start doing that?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think it starts with the words we use to describe what we're going through, because to me, and again, this may be triggering to some, when we lead with, I have this thing, you are claiming it as something that you are. You're claiming it as identity, and you're claiming that it will always be that way. And so, say if we were going to talk about a health concern, a lot of people choose now to be more mindful and to say, I am healing from blank. I am healing from hypothyroidism. I am healing from PCOS, not I have this and it is me and it is embedded in every cell of my being. So the way you talk about it is different. That inner disharmony, like I mentioned too, I think a lot of us are just living against our innate biology, especially as women, especially when we understand how our cyclical nature works, how our thyroid and our adrenals and our ovaries and everything are really running this beautiful orchestra. Much of what we do in our culture, much of how we operate in business, in leadership, is very anti that. It is running on more of a male pattern or male hormone cycle. And so that disharmony really almost becomes inevitable for most of us. I mean, most of us here have lived through adrenal burnouts. Most of us here probably lived through wanting to delete your whole business and start over because you're like, this is too hard. I don't like this. Things are hard right now and triggering. Or we've, suffered with those literal health disorders, which again are not blaming you, but are saying, hey, something about our lifestyle or our beliefs or the way we are living is not in harmony.
Okay, you bring up such a great question. And this is where I get there's this new trend that I see. So I hear what you're saying about where we've been in a male energetic dominated pattern, right? And this is not what I would call sacred masculine. It's almost hyper masculine,
yes,
the pattern. And so what I see in the pendulum swing of we're not doing that shit anymore is we go extreme hyper feminine.
Totally. Like this, the moon has to be in the right sign for anything to happen. Totally.
Right. And so that's one of my weird pet peeves right now is I'm like, I've tried both. I've tried it. I've tried to be like, I'm just going to pull all the way back and let it all come to me. And then crap stops happening. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I love that we're having this conversation because I absolutely understand that we need to have both. It's like, we've got to find that balance in both. And maybe what we have to do, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is maybe we do have to pendulum swing hard. Maybe we do have to have that experience where I'm like, nope, the moon is like a quarter full now. And so I'm going to focus on, I'm going to focus on this aspect of my life and totally let go of the energetic. So it's the give and receive, is what I see. Yes. It's the give and receive. So where masculine is, the divine masculine is the radiant giving energy, and the feminine is the open receptive energy. And when we go hyper masculine, we're just like full throttle, pardon the expression, but balls to the wall, right?
Perfect expression.
That's what we're going over here, where that leads to all those conditions that you were talking about that so many of us face, because that's the accepted model that's been out there in the old paradigm. And then, of course, the counter to that is to go so inward that you're just expecting everything to be on autopilot. Like, I think that the idea of passive income, and I'm not saying that doesn't exist, sure it does, but it definitely came through that hyper feminine energy where you hear the word passive and you're just right, fully like cocooned now and not even visible anymore.
Yes. It's funny. I think the world always tends to do extremes, right? Like we always see, like you said, the hustle, boss babe, whatever culture, which is super unhealthy. And then, like you said, this mega yin, I'll manifest only and it'll show up on my doorstep. And neither of them are necessarily realistic. There is the balance.
You just said a key word there, right? You said yin, mega yin. And if you go back to like feng shui or I Ching or something like that, you're looking at when, for example, I use feng shui, I love it. And they're like, when you're designing a space, you've got to balance the two, unless it's like, for example, if you were in your bedroom, you would want more yin because, right? But if you were to put that all over the house, you'd walk into your house and be like, just have no energy. So you make that's a great point. And I always say that the natural patterns are all around us. Just look to nature.
Yes.
Right. If you want to know how to do it right, what is nature doing?
And our body mirrors it exactly too. Our hormones and our intermenstrual cycle, just like the seasons and the moon and the tides. Exactly. They don't stay in any one of those phases for too long. There is a phase where you can be really productive and have a lot of energy. And there's a phase where you can literally cocoon on the couch with some chocolate. And they're both beautiful, but they change. They never stay stuck.
Thank you. That's one of the things I've tried to teach with people is that, we're seasonal and cyclical. And if we trust change, which is that's the one thing you can count on, is that things are going to change. And if you can trust that and lean into it, that's almost the wave you can ride.
It's honestly everyone's into biohacking right now, which is such a masculine term, I think. But I'm like, this is the literal biohacking, is knowing how your inner seasons work. That's even a blueprint for leadership in a sense.
I love that, inner seasons. Okay, so let's talk about when you're working with women and they're coming into this understanding about how the riding the wave or working with your inner seasons is really the way to move forward. So how does this come up for you? Is this where the Creatrix training comes in, or is it really with working with your body first, or is it both?
I really find they're like right on the same wavelength together. I mean, and some people are really gravitated to doing the inner work first and getting their health balanced first. And other people are like, I can do that. And I'm ready to be the leader. I'm ready to guide other women and start to heal that mother wound, that sister wound that so many of us have lived through. So I think they're momentum for each other.
Now I've got a new question that just popped in. I love this. This is a great conversation. It's like really like, it's very fertile, and I don't mean the pun, but it is. So one of the things that I feel really happy about my own life is that I've never had issues befriending women. Like, women are like, they're my sisters. I see them as that the whole time. And so it's like, I love being around women. I love supporting women. I love watching them win. And that's one of the things in my life is I want to help other women succeed. And yet I hear all the time, and this isn't, this creates confusion to me because I don't understand it. It's all the time that there are women wounds. So let's talk about that, because I think that's going to shift when we shift in higher consciousness coming up. So can you explain that? Do you see that? Is that something you work with?
All the time, in both realms, in the hormone health realm and certainly in leadership. For a lot of us, our first initiation to the connection to woman is with our mother. And we can all be grateful for our mothers and also see where maybe the support that we needed wasn't necessarily given. So if we did not receive unconditional love and nurturing and kindness and patience and a real desire to guide us through life alongside them, that creates that first distrust. And I really believe, like they say, the subconscious is patterned from the time you're in the womb till the time you're 7. Sometimes I'm like, that's scary for some of us who didn't have necessarily the most warm, welcoming home life growing up. And so that pattern's right in that women will let me down. Women can't be trusted. Women, whatever story we brew. And then unfortunately, because so many young women have that story, then you go into public school or some other setting, and what then happens? Then there's the story of women are catty, women are mean, and women are jealous, and women will steal your boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
And then it's no surprise that so often in women's circles, women come in 30s, 40s, even in their 50s, and you can tell they are so uncomfortable and scared to be there. Like they're looking around like, do I know anyone? If I say something, is this going to like get back around to other people I know? Like they're so afraid to trust anybody. But that's also the beauty of the women's circles, because, we don't stop and make them uncomfortable or anything. The circle goes on. And by the end of it, you just watch their shoulders sink and you watch their body language change, and you see them realizing, I want to be seen. I do want to be vulnerable. I crave this connection. And I think I'm ready to soften into it. It's incredible.
I love that. And it's just reminding me, like, as you're talking about it, my mind's sort of traveling back in time to periods I'm sure I've experienced, but just one of my favorites that I've heard is that the term the witching hour was really about women gathering early in the morning to start their day, but this was like their girl time, or they would get together in the circle, right, and have their morning together before they had to start a tremendous load of work for the rest of the day. That was their time. And this is all just bringing that memory back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, this is such magic for us. And I really think, and I'm sure you have your perception of this too, but part of the programming was when women get together, we can change the world. So we better keep them apart.
Exactly. Can't have empowered women. Oh God.
No, right? Because like the Dalai Lama said, the Western woman's going to change the world.
Yes.
So, but you can't stop us either. It's like we're magnets that are drawn to each other, and there's only so long you can keep us apart before we just naturally make. Yes. So when we're in our divine feminine, right, we're totally magnetic.
Yes.
So be ready.
I know.
We're coming for you.
Buckle up, everybody. Yeah, because even women that maybe would have poo-pooed this 10 years ago, it is in your DNA. It is literally in your biology to want to connect with other women, to cycle together, to bleed together. And women are coming back. It's like you said, hold on, world. We're coming.
I know. And in the best way, I really do. I mean, this is, it's interesting because, again, if we look at cycles of nature And my spirit team, who I connect with, they're always talking to me about everything that's true is cyclical, or like a circle. So whenever you see circles, so I'm looking behind you and I see circles, but whenever you see circles, that's divine presence is here, right? And in numerology, the number 0 represents God, because it's this never ending cycle. But I'm looking at it and like, so part of my gifts as an intuitive is just being able to like feel like you're bringing all this information forward. And it's incredible, by the way, everyone. She's got a lot in there.
Lots to say.
Just what I'm feeling is how, and I know you know this already, but it's dawning on me. I'm like, oh my gosh, the women's circle, whether it's virtual or literal, which I think literal is even more powerful. But that is a womb space, isn't it?
It's a little cocoon or a lodge or it's like a little hearth where you come and warm your spirit together.
But it feels like something is birthed through that as well.
Yes. It's a space just like a womb of life and death. And, we get so focused on birth and creation, but it's also a place to let go and decay and remove, just like your literal menstrual period. It's a shedding, it's a death. We tried everything to create the perfect space for new life, and new life didn't come. And now we let it die. And that is, I think, one of the greatest lessons from the crone, from the wise woman, from the cycle of life, which is just life and death and life and death, and making peace with that cycle. The womb is the greatest teacher of that.
That's a really powerful metaphor, and it's beautiful. I mean, I know that. So is it okay that I tell the audience where you're at? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for Cassandra because she's pregnant with her first child. And it's such an amazing experience for a woman to go through that. It really, for me anyway, it altered my experience with my body. I had this newfound, admiration and respect that life could carry on. And no matter how I kind of messed it up, because everybody, no one's perfect. So everything I did that I was like, oops. The body was like, I got this. There's a plan here and you're a part of it. And so, gosh, where was I going with that? Just the power of the period, that it's like I found a newfound respect for that as well, because and especially as women, we go through these seasons with it, right? Like you said, mother or maiden mother crone experience, and it is so minimized in mostly in Western culture. It's pretty minimized. And then you go outside of that and you look at other cultures where women going through their period time, right, is considered sacred. They're considered like more tuned in to the universe at that point in their cycle than ever. And there's so much respect and seeing of wisdom. And yet for most women, we don't feel that within ourselves. So how are you helping women connect back to that?
Such a beautiful question. And like you were just saying, it's all of it. It's the maiden phase, we could say, the periods. It's the mother phase is so much less honored. And, you're lucky if you get a baby shower and then you're on your way, like, good luck. Don't call me if you need me. Then same with aging, menopause is like a medical issue now. It's not something that people recognize you literally can go through, and then same with aging. Aging is so bad and scary. And God, we're so disconnected. We're so not given the roadmap. But I think the first place of coming back to is the simple tuning in and awareness and listening to what you see or feel internally. That's the thing. When we connect to our intuition, which is really housed within our womb, we can listen and we can literally communicate with our body. You could lay your hand on your womb and just say, are you okay? And if you are dealing with intense symptoms like endo or PCOS or missing periods, you'll probably feel an intuitive like, no, help, see me. I've been waiting my whole life for you to care about me. Same with your thyroid, with your adrenals, with your, pituitary pineal. These are all accessible to you, but we've been taught you have to go to someone who's, quote, an expert in your body to fix you. You are the expert in your body, not some person with some degree. They can help you.
Yeah.
But you are the only one that can connect with your body in that way. So take back your power.
I love what you're saying there. And I want to amplify that because I feel that's where we're going. So let's talk about New Earth now. Let's talk about the woo-woo part, my favorite part.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where we're going in terms of medicine. So when you visualize seeing the next level, we are through the shitstorm and we are birthed into higher levels of consciousness and we're operating differently. What do you visualize?
God. Like, it'll make me cry thinking about it, in a way. I think it's what we used to have before. Women were literally burned and killed for the wisdom they held about the body, but it would be everyone literally being their own best doctor and everyone syncing and flowing and knowing how to read their body, and us not looking to doctors as these pedestaled holier than thou beings that know everything, and having that sovereignty and that own inner wisdom. So it would be, it's hard to even put into words.
And of course, there'd still be a place for doctors.
Totally to help as you can express what you know is going on internally. So right now we have women that don't know how to connect, and we have, unfortunately, some medical professionals who don't want to hear what you know to be true, right? Or will say, no, you don't have endo, just take birth control. That's the disconnect, is both sides are out of sync.
Many of us who suspect that something's going on in our body and we go and get traditional blood work, we don't even get the blood work that would give us the answers. I mean, that's right. True with the thyroid a lot of the time.
Oh God, 100%.
Right. And so most of us are misdiagnosed in that way where we know something's off, but it's not showing up.
Right. And they're not open to investigating.
Right. So let's visualize we're moving forward in the medical industry. What do you see as a higher version of, if there is a medical industry, what's the higher version of that?
I think a big part of it will be no longer being Western medicine versus naturopathy or Chinese medicine or Ayurveda. No longer this war that one is reckless or neither are needed. And instead, again, that bridging and that merging where doctors either are more versed in multiple layers, or the referral process is easy. It is not, oh God, don't go see a naturopath, chiropractic, those are a bunch of quacks or whatever. And it's also not, oh, all medicine is evil and will kill you. Mm-hmm. It is that merging where then every piece of a person, the mind, body, spirit, therapy, Western medicine, chiropractic, naturopathy, herbs, all of that is seen and respected as a piece of the puzzle.
And you're bringing up such a good point because, again, going back to being a person going through this experience and feeling that anger and the natural desire to be upset with maybe traditional medicine. And I think that part of it is we have to realize that a lot of these people are well-intentioned. Exactly. And they're being sort of gagged and restrained. And we've heard a lot about that over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I was going to say,
just how scary it can be to be in this profession, because even if your personal beliefs would allow you to suggest something like a naturopath or a chiropractor, because you actually do have value in it, you're not supported in that in the current paradigm medically.
And you can lose your license. You can stop getting insurance. It's a much bigger beast. So that's the sad thing is, these professionals are wonderful people. And I think sometimes their hands are tied. And that's what's so disturbing.
So maybe, and I hope that this is I'm actually putting a lot of energy into this being the case, that this dissolves, it gets exposed fully, it dissolves. And I think a big part of it is each one of us claiming what you're talking about, that we have self-wisdom about our body. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this goes into a whole nother topic of like patient advocacy and things like that.
I
So, I mean,
know.
it's a big topic, I realize, and we want to keep it around leadership and this new energy. But I think you're right when you say not only will we step into it, but we have to claim it, don't you think? I mean, that's part of our job right now.
Yes, you have to live it in order to teach it, in order to lead in it. So that first step is embody it.
Yeah, and I love that because that comes back to leadership, and a big part of that is, to stand in your personal power means you take the responsibility. And
Yes.
I know that a lot of us are just waiting for this shift to happen. We're like, please, God, let the shift happen. Let us all transition into this higher frequency where it just works. But what my team says to me is like, guys, you're waiting for the saviors to come, but you're the savior. Like, you're the ones who took the mission that said, I will save this, and I will do it through my own human experience.
Yes, God, I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah. So I love what you're saying here, because it's like, first we need to see where we want to go. Right. And now you're encouraging us step in.
Yes. Yes. The
And
world
that,
wants you to stay on the like obvious linear,
well, the
like,
system, I would
exactly.
say the system, because I do feel like the world, which I would say is more of humanity, we actually do want this, but we don't know that we can claim it a lot. And maybe that goes back to what you initially said about leadership, about how you can't be a victim to something and be a leader. It's like, you've got to make a choice there. It's either I can take all of this back and step in, and then you start to feel like, oh, I do have power. Wait a minute. I make a difference. Exactly.
I felt that so much on my journey, having hypothyroidism at one point and these period problems, and and then ironically being in naturopathic school and really kind of feeling like a fraud internally, like I can help people, like I'm like dying inside, like I don't have truly anything that I understand yet. But that was part of the journey, was releasing the identities and then also doing that deep, hard stuff, which for that physical sense was a lot of taking accountability for the way I took care of myself and the ways that I thought I was being really healthy, but really starving and causing malnourishment. But then also the inner layer, which was, what do I really believe about health? And what are my inner wounds about the feminine, about God, life? And only then did it lift.
You make such a great point about taking accountability. And I highly recommend for everyone listening to listen to her cyclical podcast, because she really goes deeper into each of the issues that we can't fully touch on here. I found it really interesting because, again, there's so much you share where I'm like, I see that. I did that. Like, oh crap. Maybe I'm kind of doing that right now. Like, for example, but there's so much. So again, I tend to, in my own brain, credit a lot of disinformation to the classical medical field, but there's also a lot of misinformation out in the natural field. So can we just gently tap on that? Because, and this is not to say any lifestyle choice someone's making is wrong. That's not my place to say it. That's your life. Right. And again, we're here to support your leadership and sovereignty. And yet there's a lot of us who are earnestly looking for, how do I do this better? Mm-hmm. And it's sort of that pendulum swing again, where it's like, totally, we end up in a world where we're still talking about diets and dieting, but now we're talking about it in terms of plants. And, it sounds less diety. And yet, can we just touch on that briefly? What's happening there?
Yeah, there's dogma on both sides for sure. And I was just telling my fiance this yesterday when I was living with these thyroid issues. I felt honestly let down by both sides, because Western medicine said, here's meds. And then some natural health practitioners were, I don't know, like muscle testing me and giving me some random homeopathic, and not really, again, investigating like the basics, which is what I'm so passionate about now. Like, I don't care about anything until we've talked about, what do you eat? How do you sleep? What do you do to take care of yourself? What water do you drink? Do you have morning routines? Like, until I know that, I don't want a pill on either side. I don't want a supplement and I don't want a medication. I want to be seen as a whole real human being in front of you. So that's the thing, right? Like you said, pendulum.
So, I mean, and again, it's like, there's this, we have to really understand that the biomechanics of each of us is so freaking unique. And it's something that when we're not listening to ourselves, we can sort of dismiss that. We're looking for solutions. We're earnestly like, I need to fix this problem. What did you do? Okay, you're vegan. That's what I'm going to do. And then you go there and you're like, oh, I'm dying. Like,
literally.
It doesn't work for some people. And then we feel like failures again, right? Then the whole self-abuse cycle can really start, because again, like you're saying, so it sounds like a really tangible key is really, like you said, body literacy, really getting to know yourself.
Just knowing how to know what even feels good. Because like you said, if you don't know that, then you're going to be prey to every new diet, every new exercise guru, every new person who swears their way will fix you. It probably won't, because you're not them. And unless you can tune into your body, you may try these things for years and end up in a worse place than you started, which is most women.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, one of the things that was a newer aha is just having high cortisol levels. I'm that person. I've got a lot of cortisol. I got a lot of love too, but it's turned into a lot of stress. And my programming around exercise was, that's what's going to fix this. So if I'm holding extra weight, I got to really exercise. And of course, I work with someone who also does very similar things with hormones as to you, and like her, like being like, listen, when you've got high cortisol and then you throw a bunch of cardio on top of it, that's like putting gasoline on a burning pile of like just a huge fire. And you're just like, And so what was so interesting about it for me is it was a real struggle, because everything in me was like, I can't stop. But that thought is probably connected to the cortisol, which that's the main thought of the cortisol.
Exactly. And you can get addicted to cortisol, which is why some people say they love high stress jobs. They love them going to, some spin class afterwards. Like they're literally addicted to that high of like, oh my God, fight or flight.
Yeah.
But it always catches up. As they say, the body keeps score. So be gentle, everybody.
Yeah. And sometimes what I want to bring to this conversation is that so you're going to also get really good advice from the people that you work with. Like Cassandra, if you're working with her, she's going to bring you the truth. And the truth doesn't always feel good. It's going to, how they say the truth is going to piss you off before it sets you free.
So true.
And it's really interesting, because what it shows me is that it's not just a matter of, not doing cardio or just moving into yin yoga or stretching more or like focusing on my breath more. It really is it's a psychological, sometimes a battle, but it's really that understanding of like the thought is actually keeping this in place more than the activity, because, right?
Yeah. The beliefs govern, they drive the boat,
Absolutely. So, if you could teach, now I know this is a big one, and it's, again, we just got through saying how individual and like unique we all are. And now I'm like, let's generalize completely. But if you could teach the world, or the world of women, just one concept. And I said, Cassandra, you can help save us, but it's one thing. What are you going to do?
No pressure.
Sure.
One thing. What's coming to me is the answers that everybody is seeking is already within them. And they're not in the gurus. These answers are not in the books. They're not anywhere outside of you. They are literally in you, and they've always been there. And that's in every context. That's in healing, and that's especially in leadership. The secret, or the the unique perspective you have in leadership and the unique way that you will change the world is embedded in who you are. You don't need to take a webinar or whatever to be like, this is what I'm a leader in. But you have to quiet the noise that's around you to allow yourself to hear what's actually in there. And some people are scared to go in there, but that's even more of a reason to stop and listen and receive.
So powerful and so true. You know, what you're saying here lines up with one of the messages that's come through from my spirit team. And they were like, Therese, you've got to help explain that as the deeper we go into this energy. So it's that kind of Kali Yuga end of cycle drama that's playing out right now, which is the death, right? It's the death you were talking about. We have to go through for the rebirth. But they were saying that the deeper we go into it, the more confusing outside information is going to become. And it's on purpose and by design to get you to go within. So the deeper we go into this energy, the more it's going to compel you to go within to know truth or answers.
Wow.
So I love that that's your advice, because it's so resonant and so true. And it's the linchpin point for so much personal revelation and growth and ultimately answers, right? That's what we're so desperately looking for outside of us, is what's true, what's the answer, how do I fix this? And your guidance to be like, okay, bring it in, go within, go meet yourself, go talk to your body.
Yes.
Right? Your inner child, your inner mother, whoever you need to speak with, there's the answers there. I love that.
And they're personalized to you. That's the best part. It's no one size fits all, because your body already knows.
Right. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, again, synergy, because as you do this, you start to feel more sovereign. And as you feel more sovereign, you start to understand the answers that you actually, yes, have your answers. You've been holding them the whole time. And so for those of us who are still trying to move into that personal power, what you're saying is so right on, because it's kind of this thing where it's like, you know, they say fake it till you make it. It's not faking it though. It's really just, you know, meet it till you feel it kind of situation.
That's way better.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk then. So you help women step into that place of feminine leadership. So let's talk more about the Women's Circle Creatrix training that you do. Can you share with us what that's about?
Yeah, it's for women that know that they want to be the mentor, or as I say, the woman that holds the lantern on the dark trail for other women to follow, to find their own unique paths. And it came to me because when I began leading circles, like I said, I had only been attending circles. And so I joke that I did everything like kind of backwards. Like I did a lot of things a weird way. I did a lot of things, quote, wrong. Right. And so it's a simplified way to help women, know how to curate a safe place and how to guide a circle, and, you know, the deeper things surrounding the moon or the Sabbats or traditional holidays. And then also that deeper piece, which is anyone can pull up a manual how to guide a circle, but who are you when you're leading a circle? And what experiences have you lived through that do make you the leader? So we talk a lot about transforming your wounds into your wisdom. So what things may have been unbearable to live through, but now are your greatest teachers, and things that will allow you to know and understand the women that attend your circles better than anyone else in the world. And how do you really sit there as a potent leader that does not fix people, does not wave wands and heal people, but holds space for women to heal themselves?
That is such a powerful point that you just made, because I know that's a common feeling that a lot of people have when they're stepping into their business, right? They get that feeling of like, let's say they want to be a life coach. I've got to fix your problems. Yes. Or you want to lead the circle. I've got to save you. And that's, again, one of the things that I'm being told has to die now. We have to stop rescuing people because it's part of the trauma triangle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I love that you are asking people to stay in that place of strength. So what I'm hearing you say is we're creating the space for them to meet themselves. That's what a healer does.
Exactly. You trudge into that old dark stuff, the shadow self maybe, and you come out of it with the awareness of the incredible experiences and teachers that have come from that, versus maybe seeing it as the trauma or the thing that ruined your life.
I love that. And it reminds me of the mythology of Chiron, which was the wounded healer who might
yes.
always feel his own wound, but can heal. His knowledge, his presence with it allows other people to heal in the presence, right? I love that. And you have an awesome free gift for people. Can we talk about what that is? So if this is lighting you up, everyone, and you're like, yes, I want to be that sacred space holder.
Yeah.
I want to be that powerful medicine woman. So Cassandra, can you share with us the free gift you have for us today?
Yes, it's a beautiful little booklet that teaches you how to lead your first circle. So it's not just the practical stuff, but it's also like what we've been talking about together today, which is those inner things. How can you really set yourself up to feel ready, to feel embodied, and also have the practical tools to just do it, to take the leap and hold space for other women. And if you feel the inkling to do it, I believe you're meant to do it. And it's the most rewarding thing you can imagine.
Absolutely it is, because it's, doing that myself in my own business, it is truly inspiring. It's like, how the teacher and the student are on the same spectrum. And so it's so funny, because whenever we come into a position of leadership, we think we're there to teach, and it's like, you're there to learn.
Literally, that's so true. So true.
So it's so beautiful when you get in those groups, because you realize, oh, I'm also a student here, and that you are showing me everything I need to see right now. And it's this beautiful space of holding and mirroring that happens. And it really does, there's just a magic in being in sacred spaces with others, because we really think, when we get into the brain, we're like, I have to do something to shift this. And sometimes it's like, I just have to be something to shift this.
Yes.
So I love that you're helping people learn how to create that space so they can step into it now. And what a generous gift to help guide people do that, just for signing up to meet you and learn more from you. So thank you so much for such a generous offer.
Thank you. My goal while I'm still on this earth is to see 1 million circles guided. So,
ooh, I love that.
That's everyone's homework. Support the mission, help women.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Well, this has been such a powerful, and I feel definitely the divine feminine energy here. And I absolutely loved talking with you about this. There's a small circle happening right now as we're having this conversation, and I can definitely feel that healing energy that's flowing through. So thank you so much, Cassandra, for coming on to the summit today.
Thank you, Therese. It's an honor to connect with you and share this with everybody.
Fantastic. And thank you all for listening. I hope that you received these powerful takeaways. If you want to learn more from Cassandra, you can definitely click that link below, go get the guide, but also you're going to be in touch with everything she's working on. She has some great programs that can help you get in touch with your body and start really learning and listening from yourself. So please check that out. And I am so excited to be here at the summit with you. Thank you for being with us. And I will see you at the next episode of the New Earth Leadership Summit.